Welcome to Guide Academy. Today we're talking about crucial conversations in anesthesia, communicating when it matters most. In our practice, communication is often the difference between safe care and catastrophe. We'll be applying lessons from the book Crucial Conversations and connecting them directly to the daily realities of anesthesia, whether that's addressing patient safety concerns with a surgeon, confronting unsafe practices with a colleague, or guiding our teams as clinical leaders. Our objectives today are simple but powerful. First, we'll define what makes a conversation crucial and why this happens so often in anesthesia. Next, we'll walk through the key principles from crucial conversations and see how they apply to real OR and team scenarios. We'll look at how to recognize and address unsafe practices, misinformation, or conflict through effective dialogue. And finally, we'll consider the leadership lens, how we as anesthesia professionals set the tone for communication that protects both patient safety and team culture. A crucial conversation is one where the stakes are high, emotions run strong, and opinions differ. In anesthesia, that happens often. Our role is to deliver a service, and that means helping the patient and surgeon proceed safely. Sometimes that requires adjusting our anesthetic technique or working through alternatives to support the surgeon's goals. But ultimately, there are times when a case simply cannot proceed safely. Those moments are the most challenging because the surgeon may feel we're creating a roadblock to surgery and their revenue. That's why our intent must always be clear. We are not opposing them. We are protecting the patient. When we communicate from a place of collaboration and shared purpose, even a hard no can be respected. Crucial conversations also happen with our colleagues. When we see unsafe practice, silence is not an option. Addressing it directly, but with respect, protects patients and reinforces a culture of accountability. The goal isn't to embarrass or confront, but to open dialogue that helps a colleague course correct and ensure safe care. And finally, even outside the OR, crucial conversations are just as important. When misinformation or gossip threatens the culture of our group, how we respond will determine whether trust grows stronger or weaker. These conversations aren't ones to avoid. They're opportunities to strengthen culture, protect safety, and build respect. The first principle is to start with heart. That means pausing to ask yourself, what do I really want? For the patient, for the surgeon, and for the relationship. In anesthesia, our North Star is always patient safety, but we also want to maintain collaboration and avoid unnecessary conflict. One common trap is the fool's choice. This is when we convince ourselves that we have only two options: either speak up and risk damaging the relationship, or stay quiet to protect the relationship but put safety at risk. It feels like a lose-lose situation. In reality, the best path is almost always a both-and solution. Protect safety and preserve the relationship. For example, instead of saying flatly, "We can't do this case," we frame it as, "We both want the best outcome for this patient. Here's what I'm concerned about, and here's what we could do to proceed safely." That clarity of purpose shows the surgeon we are partners, not obstacles, and it makes even the toughest conversation easier to respect. The next principle is to learn to look. In crucial conversations, people often respond in one of two ways. They go silent, avoiding the issue, or they move toward violence, pushing back with frustration or aggression. It's natural fight or flight. With surgeons, this may sound like sharp comments or total withdrawal under stress. With our anesthesia colleagues or other OR staff, it might look like defensiveness, dismissive remarks, or shutting down. Our responsibility is to notice these cues early, before the conversation derails. When we recognize silence or escalation, whether it's from a surgeon, a colleague, or anyone on the team, that's the moment to pause and bring the focus back to safety. For example, if tension is building in the room, naming it and calmly redirecting the conversation can prevent conflict and keep the patient at the center. Once we recognize rising tension, the next step is to make it safe. Conversations shut down quickly if people feel attacked or disrespected. So our first job is to restore safety. We do this in 3 ways. First, by creating mutual purpose, reminding everyone that we share the same goal, the safest possible outcome for the patient. Second, by maintaining mutual respect, making it clear that we value the other person's expertise and contribution. And third, by using contrasting, clarifying what we do not mean, then what we do mean. For example, instead of saying, "We're canceling this case," which can feel like a roadblock, we might say, "I know how important this surgery is. My concern is that the patient isn't optimized. We both want the safest outcome." That shift restores trust, keeps the dialogue open, and ensures we're working together toward the same purpose. The next principle is to master my stories. In difficult conversations, it's human nature to interpret facts through our own perspective and quickly draw conclusions. We take limited information and build a story that feels true, even though it may not be. And once we believe that story, we react as if it's fact. In anesthesia, that might sound like, "This surgeon never listens," but that's a story. The fact is, the patient's potassium is 6.2, proceeding risks arrhythmia. Staying with facts keeps the focus on patient safety. The same thing happens with colleagues. We might think, "She doesn't respect my time." But the fact is, relief for lunch break was 30 minutes later than scheduled. That's objective data we can address without layering on assumptions. And this isn't just clinical. It happens at the organizational level too. People sometimes assume leadership doesn't care about me, or the company is heading in the wrong direction. Those are stories, not facts. The facts might be a specific policy change or a new scheduling process. When we mistake stories for facts, we damage trust. But when we stick to data and open dialogue, we create clarity and alignment. S.T.A.T.E gives us a roadmap for speaking up in a way that's structured and respectful. Here's how we use it in practice. First, share the facts. Start with objective, undeniable data. Second, tell your story. Explain your concern based on those facts. Third, ask for their path. Invite the other person to share how they see it. Fourth, talk tentatively. Frame your point with respect, leaving room for dialogue. And finally, encourage testing. Explore alternative paths together to find the safest way forward. For example, with a surgeon you might say, "The patient's EKG shows new changes. I'm concerned proceeding could cause harm. What are your thoughts? Is there another safe approach you see?" This framework keeps the focus on patient safety while making it clear you're collaborating and not dictating. The next principle is to explore others' paths. Conversations fall apart when people don't feel heard. One of the best ways to reduce defensiveness is to listen deeply. Not just to the words, but to the meaning behind them. Crucial Conversations gives us 4 tools: ask, mirror, paraphrase, and prime. First, we ask. We invite them to share more, like saying, "Can you tell me more about your concern?" Second, we mirror. Reflect the emotion you're noticing, such as, "It sounds like you're frustrated by the delay." Third, we paraphrase. Restate their meaning in your own words. For example, "So your worry is that the patient's condition could worsen if we wait." And finally, we prime. If they're still holding back, you respectfully offer a guess like, I wonder if you're also concerned about the OR schedule being disrupted. The last step is to move to action. Crucial conversations only make a difference if they end with clear commitments. Otherwise, even the best dialogue can unravel into confusion, blame, or inaction. To move to action, we focus on three things. Who does what by when? Each part matters. Without who, accountability gets lost. Without what, the action is vague. And without when, urgency is unclear. Together, these three elements turn intentions into real commitments the whole team can count on. For example, if a case must be delayed, we might say, let's reschedule once cardiology clears the patient. I'll document the plan and notify the OR scheduler by the end of the day. Now everyone knows exactly who is responsible, what will be done, and when it will happen. Moving to action transforms conversations from tense moments into forward progress that protects both patients and teamwork. The leadership lens. As clinical leaders, our role extends beyond direct patient care. We influence the culture of our teams, both within anesthesia and in the operating room as a whole. Crucial conversations are one of the most powerful tools we have to protect both patient safety and team culture. First, leaders model crucial conversations. If we stay calm, clear, and respectful in high-stakes moments, others will follow that example. Second, we must address issues early, before they escalate into gossip, mistrust, or unsafe practices. A key principle is this: complaints should go up, while clarity and positivity should go down. Concerns and frustrations belong up the chain of command, where they can be addressed constructively. But when we communicate to our teams, what goes down should be encouragement, the facts, and a clear direction forward. For example, if we hear uncertainty about something the group is doing, we might say, I notice some uncertainty around the direction of the company. Let's clarify it together before misinformation spreads. That kind of proactive communication builds trust and ensures our teams feel supported and informed. Leadership isn't about avoiding hard conversations. It's about using them to strengthen outcomes, relationships, and the culture that we all depend on. Let's close with a few key takeaways. Crucial conversations are part of daily life, in anesthesia, and in our personal lives. They're unavoidable. What matters most is how we handle them. By using these tools, we can keep conversations grounded in facts, centered on patient safety, and respectful of the people we work alongside. This not only protects our patients, but also builds trust within our teams. As leaders, we set the tone. When we model these skills, we show others how to approach conflict constructively, ensuring that our OR culture stays strong and focused on what matters most. At the end of the day, when the stakes are highest, how we speak defines not just our leadership, but the safety of the patients who depend on us. I'll leave you with this thought from Crucial Conversations. The time to have the crucial conversation is when it matters most, not after it's too late. In anesthesia, that couldn't be more true. Our ability to speak clearly, respectfully, and at the right moment is often the difference between safe care and catastrophe. Thank you.